Over the past 20 years, we've seen vehicles of all shapes and sizes that in some cases have quite literally taken the world by storm. Now, whether this is through the use of fun and funky designs, affordably packaged technology and features, or most notably innovative advertising, well, not all of these crazy ideas that we've seen have always lasted the test of time. Except that is what I've got with me here today, the 2025 Kia Soul, a car that to many not only needs no introduction, but one that is most notably remembered as being endorsed by some fun, fuzzy, pocket-sized pop stars. But unfortunately, every legend must give its final performance at some point. And with thanks once again to the Parkway family of dealerships out here in Kingwood, Texas, we're here to take our own soul-filled adventure as we pay our own bittersweet tribute to this little legend's final curtain call.
Autonomy is an illusion. Autonomy is an illusion.
All right, so from my perspective, once again, it's the pint-sized pocket rocket known as the 2025 Kia Soul. And like I was mentioning in the beginning, it's a bit of a bittersweet moment driving this thing because I've always known the Soul to be so much of a fun vehicle to drive. You know, it's short, it's squat, it's unique looking in its own way, and it just has its own personality. It always has, right back to the original one of the late 2000s. And even though, yes, many people might remember these for blasting party rock while watching cute little hamsters dancing around on a screen in clothes that were way too big for them, honestly, that's not always just been the, I guess you could say, the sole focus of why this car exists. You know, not everybody needs a utilitarian vehicle that is just as gargantuan as ever, especially if you live in an area where there's tons of tight, narrow alleyways and, you know, people parking on both sides of the road to where a normal sized vehicle can barely fit. That's where a car like this really comes in. And you know, it's not a speed demon. Even though this one here is the GT line, the sportiest of them all, it only packs a 2-liter multi-port injection 4-cylinder, so nothing like the modern gas direct injected 4-cylinders that you might get in some of their other modern vehicles. Instead, we're kind of reverting a little bit back to the old school, and it kind of shows in the numbers on paper. 147 horsepower and 132 foot-pounds of torque, and it's all put through one transmission, Kia's IVT, their intelligent variable transmission, which is basically just a fancy speak of a CVT, or continuously variable transmission. Now, to be honest, performance-wise, it's nothing really to write home about. I mean, the gas pedal, you do have to put a bit of pressure on it, and the car just kind of not so much lurches forward, but it eases forward. It's a little bit softer than you might expect. But then again, what it lacks in performance, it makes up for in fuel economy. 27 in the city, 33 on the highway for the GT line that I have here. But even though all of those numbers are things that people would just rant and rave about being a small car like this, again, the Soul has always been about having that personality. And it isn't just its looks, it isn't just the way it feels on the road. Speaking of feeling on the road, somebody decided I'm going too slow. Anyways, the Soul has always been something that just, you couldn't miss it even if you tried. From bright colors, special editions, again, the advertisements that they put out there, just so many things spoke to people really of all ages, and especially the younger crowds. People who were maybe looking to get into their first car, for example. And the case is still the same thing here today. I mean, this car, fully optioned out as it sits, is a whisker over $28,000. So less than 30 grand, and you get a pocket-sized utilitarian vehicle that still gets over 30 miles to the gallon, that doesn't need to be all about speed, and it's incredibly comfortable at the same time. But you know, if you do want the Soul to have a little bit more personality, especially in the one I've got here, well, you reach down in the middle, press the drive mode select, and you've only got two in this case. We've got normal, which I was just in, and now we are in sport. And instantly the steering is now a good bit more communicative. Yes, it is electric power steering, so it does take away from kind of that analog feeling that you might expect from a hot hatch, so to speak. But this thing doesn't even compare to the Soul Turbo that happened in around, what, 2017, 2018, something like that. That thing felt like much more of a true hot hatch. This just feels like it's got a little bit more muscle to it, but not enough to feel like it's going to tear your face off in the corners or blow your mind in a 0 to 60 sprint. But you know, just for what it is, as we go over kind of the uneven surfaces and even just slowing down to a stop, it doesn't feel like it's eager in any way. I mean, yes, it can be playful when you want it to be, but it's not a sports car despite the GT line badge that I have on this particular car here. And if you want your sport mode experience to be a little bit more fun, well, just knock the IVT over into sport mode and you actually have simulated gears that you can put yourself through. So let's just go ahead and see what that's like. I mean, she definitely picks up the pace. It doesn't feel necessarily sluggish when you're in sport mode, but I feel that's where you get the more exciting side of this car. If you want to just slow it down, you put it right back in normal, and she just settles down a little bit. That being said, when you decide to just sit back and enjoy the drive, you will notice a couple of things that may not be to everyone's taste. First of all, the way this car is constructed, my voice kind of echoes around in here. I can kind of hear my, sounds being echoed off of, say, the windshield, which, by the way, the visibility is pretty good. I will say, out of the back window, it is a little bit small, but that's to be expected for the design of this vehicle. And some people might even say that the side windows are too small, but the door line is so much more lower, so you don't necessarily have to have a giant window to see, out the side and see your side view mirror. But anyways, cabin noise wise, it's really not bad. I mean, yes, I am hearing a little bit of hum from the tires, and that's to be expected, with sportier personalities underneath, at least in this one. So if you are looking for just quiet, comfortable, relaxing, there are other trim levels like the LX or the S, which offer smaller wheels, thicker sidewalls, and maybe or maybe not a little more or a little less sound deadening. It really just depends on which one you're picking. But again, from a driver's perspective, I'm incredibly comfortable. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say this is like a multi-day long distance road trip vehicle, and even though I'm sure people have done it, it isn't quite everybody's cup of tea. I don't think people could get used to driving this car for many, many, many hours on end. But then once you finally settle down to a stop, well, the first thing you notice is that it does have the auto start stop system, and that's not really a feature I'm used to or much preferably like, so I actually have it turned off in this case. But if you look over by your left knee, you can actually turn it on, and of course shuts down the engine when you're at a stop and kicks it back on when you need to go. But I'm going ahead and turn that off. But overall, it really is so sad to see Kia giving the Soul the axe. I mean, yes, I know that their newer vehicles have been spoken about as having a little bit more personality to them, but I think if you're talking about being unique and out there, I don't even think this car's slightly bigger sibling, the Seltos, offers as much pizzazz and just that fun factor and uniqueness that the Soul had. And that's really what makes me the most sad of all, is that Kia decided, you know what, these things may not be doing as well for themselves. We have the Seltos, so yeah, it's, something a little bit larger, something maybe people might want a little more. Let's go ahead and get the Soul out of the lineup. It's had a run, and what a run it has had. I mean, almost 20 years these things have been on the road. I mean, God, I'm going to miss this thing. I'm really going to miss this thing. But the driving experience isn't the only part of the Soul's personality that can just make you giggle in just the right moments, or just make you feel like you're actually driving something that's not a lowly rental vehicle of all things. And that's what happens when you step out, turn around and look at it one more time before you go off to wherever you go, and you realize just exactly what you've been driving. Okay, so this thing might not be a real speed demon in a straight line, and it's certainly no canyon carver either, but The ultimate goal of the Soul, if you will, try saying that 5 times fast, has never been about performance. It's always been about aiming at those who are not only young in age, but also young at heart, with its cheeky, youthful looks that date all the way back to the late 2000s. Now, with this newest design, depending on who you talk to, it can be a little bit controversial in some ways, but that's not to say Kia isn't still offering you a lot for your money, and I really do mean a lot, even if that comes at a little bit of an extra cost, because this GT line model is carrying the additional technology package on board, which means this one, in its bright Inferno red paintwork, not only gets the optional LED headlights with your LED daytime running lights, auto high beam assist, and your LED fog lights below, but you also now get the bright silver trim and the gloss black treatment around its mouth-like grille. Now, it's not exactly wide open because this car isn't turbocharged, at least not anymore, so you don't need all the cooling power possible, but it's enough to get the job done. You'll also notice in terms of styling that it's missing the signature tiger nose grille. Or maybe it's not. If you look at the curvature of the hood or bonnet, depending on where you are, you will see a subtle styling cue in a form of a little bulge here around where the hood latch sits that kind of reminds you of the tiger nose grille that you saw on previous generations. Not only that, whether you get the tech package or not, or whether you just select another model of the Soul family, you will still be getting quite a lot of technology as standard. For example, on this one, you get lane following, lane keep assist, forward collision warning, rear cross traffic alert, but with the options added on, you get navigation-based radar-guided cruise control, along with a few other safety-minded helping hands. Now, even though the styling may still resemble the cheeky hamsters that once endorsed it, that's not the only ace that the Soul carries up its sleeve. If you compare this car at the current time of this video to its next sibling in line, the Seltos, at 165.2 inches long, this car is nearing 7.5 inches shorter than the next vehicle in line. So at the time of this recording, this is still the smallest Kia SUV, crossover, or even dare you call it a wagon that you can currently buy. But again, just like those party rock days that we once loved to listen to, well, that's not to say that the Soul doesn't enjoy a little bit of something fancy. And on this GT line, we have 18-inch gloss black and machine-faced alloy wheels. And I love that turbine twist design. It's, again, just the right amount of youthful and something a little bit extra. But to make sure you don't mess up that machine face, which I would hope you don't, because I can only imagine how much it would cost to repair one of these wheels, well, they are wrapped in a squared 235/45 hand-cooked tire setup. Now, even though its name might be getting up there in age a little bit, that's not to say that for the size of the vehicle, this thing is not packing still quite the hefty punch when it comes to getting the value for money here. Now, yes, I know we have a few little options on this one, but as far as standard things go, this car also comes with blind spot collision avoidance with the blind spot monitoring in the mirrors. This particular one comes with a standard size power sunroof, and you also get Kia's advanced keyless access. But I guess one of the only little nitpicky things I have is in its final model year, I wish they had given it Kia's newest key fob. This is a little bit of an older style key fob. It still has all the functions you want: lock, unlock, panic, and even a factory remote start. But it's pretty much the same key fob that I had on my 2022 K5, and that was going on 3 to 4 years ago. But nonetheless, it all works exactly the same, or at least partly, because if you want to get into the vehicle, you could use the key fob as you normally would. You just lock the car, or if you want to get in, you can see that unfortunately there are no touchpads here. You simply push the button on the side to unlock it, and then if you want to lock it, just do the same thing again. Now again, just like its face, the rear of the Soul still maintains a lot of the same flavors and features that we saw back almost 20 years ago, with this flat, boxy rear end that now houses these new LED taillights, which again, you can only get it just like the headlights as a part of the technology package. But aside from some new badging, a little bit of gloss black to break up the red, the backup camera that's attached to the trunk lid itself, and even the central mounted dual exhaust, there's really not a whole lot going on back here that would suggest you paid almost $30,000 for this mini Kia crossover. But you don't buy a car like this just for its features, let alone for its looks. You buy it to be practical in a unique, fun-sized, and efficient manner. And that's all what happens when you open the tailgate. That's where the magic really happens, because even though I may look a little bit cramped sitting here on the Soul's rear tailgate, well, the numbers on paper tell a bit of a different story, and really it all depends on how you configure the rear cargo area of the Soul. You can have the rear cargo board, which can diminish the cargo space just a little bit, or you can have it completely open like I have it here. Now, with the cargo board in place and the rear seats up, you're looking at as little as 18.7 cubic feet of cargo volume. Without it, a little over 24 cubic feet of cargo volume. But the magic happens when you take out the cargo board, whether you have it or not, fold down the rear seats, and now you're looking at over 62 cubic feet of cargo volume. And fun little story, I used to sell these cars brand new a good few years ago. And there was a lady that I remember who had one of these. It was a couple years older than this one. And she actually mentioned that she was able to move 2 full-size living room chairs in the back of the Soul. I mean, if that isn't enough proof of the capabilities of this thing, I don't know what is. Now, it isn't just driving the Soul or even looking at its cheeky personality on the outside that really evokes the true sense of fun and sort of an innovative thought behind the Soul's design. It's really what happens when you sit inside of it. Once you get past all of that, you start to notice the unique little touches, especially on this particular trim here, from the anodized red trim on the doors, the red stitching on this sport design leather wrapped steering wheel, to just the amount of stuff that you get for the money. That's always been Kia and even their sister company Hyundai's philosophies, giving the customers everything they need and then some without charging them an arm, a leg, and maybe some other intimate part of them. And just getting down to the basics, the first thing I want to point out is I have forever maintained that the Soul is one of my favorite crossover SUV vehicles of this size to actually get in and out of. With the seating position I have right now, it is the ever so slightest step down to get into the vehicle, but with the right seating position, you almost slide right into it. You don't whack your knees on the steering wheel or anything like that. It is just the right way to truly get into a vehicle. I know it's a minute detail, but it's something that at least counts to me. And speaking of those seats, in this particular example, I'm really digging the half syntex and half cloth design. The cloth in the middle means my back kind of sinks right into it, but the syntex material with the bolsters right here on the sides kind of do hug you in the right way, but they're not so like contortive. They don't wrap around your sides. They just kind of cradle your body just so. Now, depending on who you talk to, I have heard some people say you can get cooled seats in one of these. I've yet to see it, but in this example, these seats are heated only, and that is even part of the options list. But looking at the steering wheel itself, I love its design. It's not heated, and quite frankly, I don't care. The grips are exactly where I want them to be. All my functions are in these rather interestingly shaped dials here on the steering wheel, from my highway driving assist to multimedia controls, and everything else is just so close and right at the touch of my fingers, from the adjustments in the little tiny screen in the middle of my very uniquely designed gauge cluster, which has kind of been hit and miss with a lot of people. Sometimes it looks a certain way and people don't like it, but in this, it looks a little bit more modern. It adds a bit more of that upper end touch to even a lesser expensive vehicle like this. But if you think that is cool enough of a screen, if perhaps that's your sort of thing, look right in the middle. And yes, it is a little bit of a smaller screen, but we're in a bit of a smaller car. This has a 10.25-inch high-definition screen with Kia's Your Voice technology. Now, you don't just get things like navigation or Android Auto or Apple CarPlay as standard, let alone as an option. You get other things that really sort of evoke the past in a modern sense. You remember in the old version of the Soul how you got those lights down around the speakers? This one still has it, and you can adjust it right through the infotainment system. But if you want something to coincide with those speaker lights, well, dig around in the options list with the tech package, and you'll find that this one is carrying a 10-speaker Harman Kardon audio system. One of the better names in the industry already, and for a vehicle of this size, I mean, it is a real party animal when you push the power button. Now again, due to its diminutive size, Kia had to kind of compact all the rest of the technology, such as the optional dual zone climate control setup and everything else. And even though they have, it's not exactly one of the hardest systems to ever figure out. And quite frankly, I love it much more than some people actually don't. For example, with the climate control, yes, some of the buttons may be a little bit tiny, but it's functional. It does exactly what you want. With the little digital readout for your temperature right in the middle, aside from your physical temperature gauges, you do have a wireless charger in this one, which is on this like little shelf right down here in the lower compartment. It's big enough for just about every size phone. I know mine certainly fits in there. You've also got a little cubby hole, like I said, down in here with a USB-A port, which I haven't seen one of those in forever, along with a USB-C. But you move back, heated seat controls, your drive mode select, start, stop, and a physical gear lever. I still cannot get over how some companies are doing away with these and putting a touch button system for gear selection in its place. It still feels so much better to use a physical lever than using something that's, you know, kind of a pray and hope once you push a button. But other than the cup holders and a pretty decently sized center console, there's really not too much as far as putting an exclamation point on at least the driver's area here in the Soul. Now, I know what some of you may be thinking already. There is no way that this pint-sized SUV crossover wagon-like vehicle could possibly fit an over 6 foot tall driver in the front seat and have somebody of a similar size sitting in the back. Well, guess what? You're looking at it. This driver's seat is exactly where it is most comfortable for me to be driving this car. And again, I'm over 6 feet, or right around there. Again, just depends on what the doctor puts in his notes. And with the rear of the seat, or at least the driver's seat here, being indented, even though it is plastic, I don't have to do any man-spreading to accommodate a taller driver sitting in front of me. I have plenty of room to move around, and it really is like an episode of The Jungle Book back here, just the bare necessities. I mean, I have a map pocket in the back of the passenger seat, so I am going to have to reach if I need to put anything in there. I have 2 USB-Cs. I have a armrest here, which takes a little bit of getting used to. Sometimes you might have to dig in there in order to actually pull it out of the seat, but a couple of cup holders and just loads of room, even more headroom than I imagined either. I've got at least a half a foot between the top of my head and the roof line here, which thankfully it is indented to accommodate taller passengers. So it may be small, it may pack a hell of a lot in terms of features, but that doesn't mean it's packing anything short on comfort and space. And on that note, ladies and gentlemen, our final song has wrapped up, and it is finally time to bid farewell to the 2025 Kia Soul. And before the tears start falling, my heart and my thank you goes out once again to the team at Parkway Family Kia, a part of the Parkway family of dealerships out here in Kingwood, Texas. Their generosity in allowing me to experience the Soul one final time has just been yet another checkmark in why I love working with them so much. The fact that they allowed me to have this car for any amount of time just to be able to, again, send it off in our own proper fashion, I just absolutely love how they've been working with me so far. And if perhaps you're interested in this particular Soul, one of the few of them that they have left, or maybe another piece of new Kia inventory, check out all their information that I've provided in the description box below. And be sure, once you finally arrive at the dealership, that you tell them you heard about Parkway Kia and perhaps even the final year of the Soul right here on the driveway. But okay, few quick final thoughts. And it really all revolves about what I said in the very beginning. It's all about its fun and funky design, the affordable yet efficient use of technology and value for money, and really just bringing it all together with that advertisement and those fun little fuzzy pop stars that we saw so many years ago. This car has finally cemented its place in my own personal automotive history. I mean, I still love it. Even here to this day, it still makes me feel something that not many cars really do. And again, it may not be about speed, but as an everyday vehicle, it's just been so much fun having these cars here on the marketplace. But if you guys are as sad to see the Soul go away as I am, or perhaps you finally learned something about it as well, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and also while you're at it, hit the subscribe button down below, because trust me, support just doesn't come in the form of working with dealerships. It comes in the support of all of you watching these videos, whether you're subscribed or not, and actually, you know, giving feedback, things like that. I always listen to everybody and what you guys have to say, both the good, the bad, and even the ugly. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the review, and I will see you all in the next one. Take care, everybody. and stay safe.